Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video in the wake of yesterday's layoffs and transfer of people to Sony and a new spun-off studio and all the crazy shit that happened. Yesterday I talked mostly about how badly this got screwed up by leadership and how tragic it is, and the whole timeline has just been really tough, seeing person after person after person saying it's their last day, and seeing the people that are still there very angry, and it's a mess. Like, even in this industry where there have been significant layoffs, this is like 25% of Bungie laid off in under a year, plus even more people like transferred to Sony. It's like 35% of the company or something that is like gone and not doing Bungie things anymore in some form or another. I said I was going to talk today a little bit about like what this means for the actual, production of Bungie things, and like, well, obviously they are the only ones that know that, although I don't even know how many workers know that necessarily, and leadership, whatever they think may happen, may not happen. They said they have 850 people working on Destiny and Marathon. I don't know how big the Marathon team is, but let's assume it's 200 people, which, I mean, you're trying to launch a full-ass multiplayer live game, so you need a lot of people. The point is, it's a dramatic reduction in terms of how many people have been or used to be working on Destiny 2. And what they did announce through the Destiny 2 team account, which you should not yell at because that's just our social media friends, not, Pete Parsons writing that. They're just told what to write and they write it, essentially. That said, like, this does not change our future near-term or long-term plans. The stated plans that we have are 3 episodes of Destiny. We are currently in the first one. That is 2/3-ish over. Technically, it's half over. And then this thing called Destiny Frontiers that is launching next year after these episodes. We don't know what that is. It seemed like an arc rather than a specific expansion, because I would have said it was an expansion. And then Marathon is still supposed to come out in 2025. It does not have a date. I am somewhat skeptical, given all that's going on, that would hit whatever internal target date it has. I know some Marathon people were fired in this round of layoffs, so it's not like, they're just cleaving from Destiny and Marathon is like the golden child. Like, Marathon people got fired too, and yeah. So, and then we have this mystery third game that apparently, according to Jason Schreier, it's like 40 people going under a studio under Sony. It's a fantasy sci-fi adventure game. Don't know what that is. It doesn't seem to be Gummy Bears, that like rumored third project. Reporting said that was Frozen, but no one really said anything about this third game or what that's about. I think we've seen some like concept art for this game that looked like pretty fantastical, and I would say younger skewing rather than anything in the vibe of Destiny. I don't know what type of game that is. I would be amazed if it was not some sort of live game, because Sony wants Bungie to make live games, hence the reason they acquired them, which is looking like an increasingly bad idea. I don't know what's going on with that. We just don't have enough information. In terms of Destiny, all of this has made me kind of shift my perspective, where it's like, how could they not do expansions in the future? Like, that's the bread and butter of Destiny. Like, you need that big thing to sell, to package in the seasons or episodes with the big expansion, sell it all for $100 bundle and the dungeon keys and blah, blah, blah. I think you're going to see just widespread reductions in scale across Destiny. If there are expansions, and I'm not convinced they are, I think they will be smaller than what we've seen. And, everyone's always like, well, nothing's ever going to be as big as Forsaken, which was big. And technically, in terms of landmass, I don't even think like Final Shape was as big. But Final Shape was very big. Witch Queen was big, but I don't think we're going to get to that level again, not remotely soon. So if there are expansions, I would expect less from them. The Echoes content is playing out interestingly. I mean, it seems like most people are not a fan of this format, but I believe the fundamental idea here was not just to like mix up seasons, which as we can see is not really happening. I think the goal has to be overall less content over the course of the year. And there is, they have a public event mission, they have a race mission, they have 3 battlegrounds that are pretty much strikes. So like there is content, but it's also things that are being stretched out over the course of a year and 3 episodes instead of 4 seasons. And it feels like it's going to be probably less overall when all is said and done. And I also think we're losing some things that we've come to expect. I do not think there's going to be a reprise raid this year. There are no indications there will be. That may be something that's just done because it's resources they don't have to give away something for free. I think PvP will suffer. I think Gambit will be essentially erased from existence because those are free things that I just don't think they're going to invest much more into free content other than, what they've recently done with making some of the expansions and like Stasis or whatever free, which I think is a good move, but it's not really the same thing as what I'm talking about. Destiny will be reduced in scale. I think that's clear. I think we have to sort of understand that. And you can say when the content hits, like, this isn't doing it for me, like, this isn't gratifying. Like, you can say that. I will probably say that to some extent, but like in terms of volume, I think we have to adjust our expectations that, at least for now, in this like weird post Final Shape era of Destiny, things are going to be, at a much lower boil than they have been. I've been of the opinion, I think they should just take a couple years off and come back with Destiny 3 and some big relaunch of the IP. But there's this relentless pressure to just generate revenue constantly. And that essentially doesn't allow that to happen. And I don't see that happening based on what we know. Like Sony or the Bungie higher-ups or whoever are just sort of mandating that the live service operates exactly as it has been, and at worst getting less content than we've seen previously. The problem is the community's been so conditioned to the increased amount of content we've gotten in the last few years, and it is an increased amount. Like compare the stuff we have to seasons in the past, and it is very much more than that, with few exceptions. So I'm not super hopeful that we're going to get some big turnaround here. And like, imagine the morale of the Destiny team at this point. Like, you launched Final Shape, like it had to kill it. It killed it. It did amazingly, everything was on points, like it delivered on all the fronts it should have. And yet everyone ended up fired anyway. So like, what's the point of being pushed that hard? And I think Bungie employees were told that like, if just Final Shape like blows out of the water, like that's going to be great for Bungie and like smooth sailing. I don't think there was any level that Final Shape could have performed that was like within reasonable expectations that could have changed things here. I just don't think it was possible, even if workers were told that. Maybe people were delusional and they're gonna be like, this will be our best selling expansion by like 200%, but like it was never going to do that. And the quality was there. That's all they could have done. I don't know what else they could have done. And if that didn't work, and you still see 25% of your colleagues laid off, like what are you even doing? Like I can see a lot of people just leaving the company, looking for other jobs, because Bungie seems like one of the most unstable developers in the industry right now. There's still no indications that like problematic leadership is leading. They said that like this includes executives and senior roles being laid off. I have no idea what executive has been laid off, if any. I heard it was like one executive, I don't know who, and then another one who was like already leaving anyway. Like, so I don't think that's meaningful at all. Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy are ghosts. Pete Parsons is, the one everyone's mad at, and he's not going anywhere. There's this idea that Herman Holst is going to take over, and at this point, fuck it, maybe that's better than current leadership, and maybe he has a direction for Bungie that will keep them alive and afloat and not fully dissolve into Sony. Although, since he is Sony, maybe he does want that. In terms of other stuff, Marathon is a very big risk, and it feels like what Concord has shown is that you can make a pretty quality shooter, and like a lot of the gameplay people were pretty into there, but it is so hard to break into this market. And like, even if the vibes are like a little off, like these characters are a little too Guardians of the Galaxy, don't like these designs, it like poisons the well. And Marathon has the aesthetic we saw, but it feels like it's changed mid-development. They went with this idea that they were going to be like custom player characters, and then they're switching to heroes because the guy from Valorant took over, and Chris Barrett took a rocket ship to the end of the universe, and who knows what happened there. It does not strike me as something that is even close to like a guarantee of success. And I'm not saying no one should ever try to make any multiplayer shooters ever again. It is just, out of everything in the industry, it has proven exceedingly hard to break into on that front compared to other genres. Like, I still think other genres are like more open and more receptive to new entries, especially like free-to-play ones. Like Once Human is doing really well in like the survival-ish space right now. First Descendant, it's a live looter shooter, it's free, and it's good enough, and it's, it debuted really well. So I think the opportunity is there a little bit more for other games, whereas the multiplayer shooter space, people are just so entrenched in frickin' CSGO and Fortnite and Valorant and Apex, and like, even some of those are fading, but it really has to stand out to break through. And I think it could. I mean, the aesthetic that we saw, at least if that's not changed, is awesome. Like, I really love that. It seems like it could be more unique than anything on the market. It's not just another 5v5 hero shooter. It's extraction, but it also seems like it might have at least some PvE elements, some elements of like exploration. Like, it feels like a hybrid of a few different concepts, and like that could either be really cool and catch on, or it could be something that no one actually wants to see and it doesn't catch on. It's sort of a gamble. And it is unclear, because a lot of the top PvP people at Bungie have left for other places like Firewalk and Concord and various other places. So I don't really know. And Destiny PvP has just been all over the place with whatever PvP people are left there, that it's sort of unclear, what the status of that is. And we've had these reports of like marathon play tests and things going on, and like there was good reports, bad reports. I don't think we can base anything off of those yet. I'm just wondering about the timeline of this, because it's still 2025. We are just a couple of months away from 2025 now, and still don't have a date, don't have any things for alphas or betas or whatever. And like this can't launch like Concord. It can't. Like, your open beta's getting like 3,000 players on Steam. Like, no, that's bad. You can't do that. Do we know if Marathon's free to play or if it's gonna be $40? I don't think we know that yet, but that's another thing, is in this market, you are probably going to have to launch free to play. And if so, that comes with its own challenges, but at least you can get a player base going. And almost, essentially every other game in this genre at a high level is free to play now. So I think that's a problem with Concord, is Sony's trying to do the Helldivers 2 thing where you charge $40 and then it's live after that. And the microtransactions aren't terrible, but yeah, I don't think that's going to go well for Concord. And again, it's Marathon, it's Bungie, it's a cool looking thing. We really just only have a trailer to go on, but that trailer did look very cool. And I'm just a little unclear about the sum total of the team that's on that now, between these layoffs, between people, directors switching and all that stuff. So that's more of a mystery. And then the third game, I mean, who the hell knows? Truly don't know. I'm imagining it's skewing younger than Destiny and Marathon. That's the vibe we've gotten from past concept art that was never really attached to one specific project. I don't think this is Matter, which supposedly is a concept game, again, from Chris Barrett like years ago, that got canceled. But this seems like it's probably related to some of the concept art we've seen. And what is it? Is it is it a cool like open world adventure game, or is it team fight tactics? Like, we just don't really know. You can say something's a cool open world or a cool adventure sci-fi game, and that's not making it clear what the genre is. Obviously, I would love to play just some really cool single-player open-world game PvE from Bungie. The state of things, the state of Sony and their demands makes me think that is almost certainly probably not what this is, and it's going to be some sort of live competitive thing. None of this is good news. The layoffs are brutal. Getting absorbed into Sony, even if that saved jobs, that doesn't really bode well for the future. Destiny definitely producing, smaller scale content in the future, may make it survive, but it's going to be a spiral. You're going to see player complaints, player drop off, and it's just going to loop like this. If there's no huge expansions to come back for, then you don't get these surges, and we're already seeing it. Like, we've seen the biggest player drop off, I think, in the game's history from the time the final shape ended to now, in terms of like percent that have left. And again, we don't know what the expectations are. We don't know what Bungie's burn cash rate is, which is supposedly very high. So even if you have a good amount of concurrent players, even if you are producing a lot of content and sales, if you're spending tons of money to make that, that can be unsustainable. And that's essentially what the Parsons message said, where I probably don't think he's wrong in that. It probably is burning money. They probably are in the red, but that's the result of bad decision making higher up, that maybe you shouldn't be working on 4 or 5 other projects you're investing in, with a significant part of the studio, when you have to support one of the most intensive, live service games that exist. And, it's a little flying too close to the sun there. So they're going to talk more about the future of Destiny, blah, 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 in the future. Whoever's left to talk about it. They fired a lot of the writers. They fired a bunch of the Final Shape writers who made that really good. They fired tons of music and audio people, tons of art people, player support. All disciplines certainly, but a lot of roles specifically that make me concerned. So anyway, that's all I got for now. I don't know what I'll keep talking about from here. Maybe it's back to the First Ascendant, because everything's just very depressing on the Destiny side right now, and I don't know how much new news we're going to get from that anytime soon. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.